Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us here on SABC News. Tomorrow, the continent will celebrate Africa Day. As part of the celebrations, the Institute of Foreign Affairs and the Center for Africa-China Studies will host a virtual seminar next week. Now, to tell us more about that seminar and the importance of Africa Day, we're joined via Skype by Mpho Tsedu, the Chief Executive Officer for the Institute of Foreign Affairs. And I suppose I must add a former colleague as well. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Tsedu.
Thank you very much, Flo. Yeah, indeed, it's hard sitting on the other side of the table, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'll try to make it as comfortable as possible. Well, first of all, we're having this Africa Day seminar. If you can tell us why this collaboration with the Center for Africa-China Studies, what is the importance of involving the Africa-China Studies, and really give us a brief overview of what the seminar will be all about.
Okay, well, this is a partnership project between the Institute of Foreign Affairs, of which I'm the founder and director, and the University of Johannesburg Center for Africa-China Studies. Now, the intention of both these institutions is to put the African agenda back on the map. And our view was, since this is Africa Month, let us look at the foreign policy of South Africa to perhaps as a start towards Africa, and allow not only ourselves as scholars but also ordinary people to engage with the formulation, the expression of the foreign policy, South Africa's foreign policy that is. And we're very grateful for the Department of International Relations and Cooperation that the Minister has honored us with her presence, so to say, in that she would be the one to deliver the inaugural of this series of seminars, dialogues, or summits, if you may want to call them. So we would want to talk, for instance, as a beginner, about the silencing the guns on the continent, because as you would know, the rebels, whether there's lockdown or no lockdown, they continue to operate, they continue to run throughout the continent, and therefore we would want the minister to share with us. And by us, I mean the South African public, and I will share with you the entire program for the day, to share with us what South Africa has been doing as far as this concept of silencing the guns was adopted by the African Union, so to say.
Do you feel that South Africa has taken a little bit of a back seat when it comes to the Africa agenda? And the reason that I say that is, you'll remember at the time of former President Thabo Mbeki would often, speak about African issues. He would have speeches. I'm an African, for an example. It's been a while since I've heard that kind of talk from government officials. Granted that at this time, though, of course, we're all in the midst of a pandemic. But is there a sense that there isn't enough coming from South Africa dealing with African issues as was the case previously?
No, absolutely not. There's a lot, and I mean, I'm letting the cat out of the bag here. There's a lot that South Africa is doing in as far as silencing the guns is concerned on the continent. I mean, whether it be through the African Union or through the United Nations Security Council itself, South Africa is doing quite a lot. All we want to do now is for the minister to share with us what exactly the nitty-gritty is, so that it is not just a knowledge that belongs to the scholars of international relations, diplomacy, and foreign policy. But for you, you saying that during President Mbeki, for instance, there was a lot of public diplomacy, if one may call it, in as far as African policy was concerned. Yes, that is correct. Each and every leader identifies what their main focus is going to be, their presidency or prime ministership or whatever it is. They identify the issues which they are going to focus on. And President Mbeki indeed had identified the African Renaissance as one of his key legacy project. President Zuma, as you know, that the BRICS happened during his tenure, and it was one of his focus areas in as far as the foreign policy is concerned. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa is still early days. We will see deeper in his term as to what does he want his legacy programs or legacy projects to be. But definitely, South Africa is a strong player in as far as foreign policy is concerned on the continent. And with this year, obviously, South Africa also chairing the African Union, I suppose we're going to see, or we would have started seeing, had it not been for this pandemic outbreak, probably a lot of pronouncement in as far as that is concerned. We may not know each and every aspect of the South Africa foreign policy, but for sure I can give you my assurance that there is indeed a lot that is happening.
I want to talk about the significance of Africa Day. Some of the importance of these sort of days get lost in what we do. For example, I'll probably be wearing African regalia tomorrow. But what is really the significance of this particular day? I mean, one could say that it should be Africa Day every day. I'm here on this continent in Africa, and especially for South Africans who have been criticized for sometimes not realizing how important it is to be part of this community that is the African continent. But I really want to go into really the significance of the day of Africa Day and why it is important that we indeed observe such a day.
Well, look, as the human race, through the various multilateral organizations that our countries belong to, we have agreed or we have subscribed to a whole lot of international days. There's the International Media Freedom Day. There's even Valentine's Day. For all one cares. But the significance of a day like Africa Day is obviously a reminder and a re-emphasis, rededication to the cause of the objectives and principles for which bodies such as the Organization for African Unity and subsequently the African Union were founded for, and in this case to ensure that firstly Africa is politically liberated, and secondly the second liberation or revolution which these countries have to engage in being the economic emancipation of all the African countries. And as you would recall, all African states at the moment are really battling with the question of beneficiation of their mineral resources, the economic emancipation of their people. So when an Africa Day happens, it is a time or a day on which we need to rededicate ourselves as Africans in Africa and on the diaspora, really, to rededicate ourselves to the principles for which organizations like the African Union was founded, but also to do an assessment. Let's check how far have we gone to ensure that we achieve the goals that we have set ourselves to. And in this case, as we have selected for the purposes of our seminar on Saturday, silencing the guns on the continent. Is it possible? How far have we gone? Have the guns been silenced? No. But what are the efforts that are being put? And what is the role that each and every citizen on this continent and the diaspora can play to ensure that there is peace on the continent?
All right, so we'll certainly be listening in on that virtual seminar next week. We thank you for your time, Mpho Tsedu, Chief Executive Officer for Institute of Foreign Affairs. Thank you. All right, let's take a short break. Do stay with us.